Hello and welcome to the most exciting adventure here on my channel, the reveal of my collaboration with Ccolor Cosmetics. Now, before I show it to you, I do have to start by giving my little Oscar speech and thank Ccolor Cosmetics for this amazing opportunity. They really have been just so wonderful to work with and have been one of my favorite brands for a while now, so this opportunity really just was an absolute dream come true. I also need to thank my friends and family for being a part of the promotional images for this palette. Thank you so much for being my models and being a part of this amazing moment in my life and supporting me through the whole process. I am sure you got annoyed of me talking about it nonstop. I also need to give a little special shout out and thank you to Silktify on Instagram. She is an amazing product photographer. If you are into makeup product photography, flat lace, swatches, all of that, you definitely need to be following her. She is super talented and she really helped me with the Photoshop and figuring out the aesthetic for the marketing of this palette for the promotional photo shoot. So big thank you to her, and you should definitely be following her if you are not. And finally, thank you so much to all of you guys. To you, every person who watches my videos, who is subscribed to my channel, who has left a comment, who comments regularly. Sincerely, thank you, because I know it's cheesy and I know it's cliche to say, but I would not have had this opportunity without you, and just genuinely, thank you so much. And with that, without any further ado, here is the Death Valley palette by Ccolor Cosmetics and me. It's so beautiful. I love the outer carton, the packaging so much. It looks nothing like I originally pictured in my mind. It is so much better. When they showed this to me, I was like, yep, that's the one. And then here is the inside. This is my palette. This is the one I've been using nonstop, so it's a little messy, but that's how a palette should be, shouldn't it? I can't believe I'm doing this. But before I go through each shade, tell you about the inspiration behind the color story, all of that, I need to start by giving you the information. So this palette will launch this Friday, November 25th on Black Friday on Ccolor Cosmetics website. It'll be linked down below. I will update the link to specifically this palette when it goes live. It will go live at midnight, like the early morning midnight of Black Friday. So like if you stayed up Thanksgiving night till midnight, that's when it will launch. So it'll be there all day. It will typically retail for $14, but because it's launching on Black Friday, it is launching on a Black Friday sale for $12. And the rest of Ccolor Cosmetics will be 50% off on their website. So if you've had your eye on some Ccolor Cosmetics, that would definitely be the time to try it out. Personally, I've been loving their new Peaches and Cream palette. It is super pretty, though obviously this one is my favorite. This is a cruelty-free and vegan formula, but because there are some vegan reds in here, the shades Desert Holly and the Spice, these two red mattes, are not considered eye safe in the US. Though they are considered eye safe in Europe, it's just a difference in the makeup regulations between the two areas. So the main issue with them is staining, though some people may have an allergic reaction to those pigments. So if you are at all worried about that, then make sure to patch test those two shades on your wrist before putting them on your eye, just to make sure you don't have a reaction or you see how much staining you can expect, all of that. And I am very proud to announce that 5% of the sales of this palette will be going to an amazing charity. I want to make sure to get this right. It is the Neighborhood Housing Services of Southern Nevada. This is a charity that works to provide affordable rental housing as well as down payment assistance, financial literacy, counseling, and home buyer education. They have a 4-star, 100% rating on Charity Navigator and were recognized for transparency this year, 2022, by Candid. So they are a really fantastic charity, and I know 5% is not a ton, but I just really wanted to take this opportunity and try to give back a little bit, make the world a better place. And homelessness really is one of those causes that is close to my heart because I've had family members experience homelessness, and I genuinely just think it's disgusting that in the richest country in the history of the world that anyone doesn't have shelter. So I wanted to give to that cause, and I thought this would be the right charity, especially because it's in the Death Valley area. And obviously you do not have to buy this palette to support that charity. I will have them linked down below if you want to donate directly. And in fact, like, don't let that be the thing that convinces you to buy this palette. If you buy it, if you do, please do it because you really want this palette. If you want to support the charity, please just do that. This was just meant to be a way for me to try to pass it forward a little bit. So with that, I think that's all the important information. If there's anything I forgot, it'll be down in the description. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Hello, I actually did forget something fairly important. I forgot to let you guys know that this video actually has a giveaway. If you would like to win the Death Valley palette by me and Ccolor Cosmetics, then you can enter by liking this video and commenting down below, including your Instagram handle, so Ccolor can reach out to you with your prize. Now be careful, because there has been this scam going around YouTube of like fake giveaways and stuff, and creators, fake accounts of creators telling people, hey, you won this giveaway, just message me on WhatsApp or whatever and give me money and I'll send it to you. That will not happen. I will pin the comment of the winner. So if your comment is not pinned, I'm sorry, you did not win, and only Ccolor's official Instagram will be who reaches out to you. So you will not have to reach out. Just please include your Instagram handle letting me know you want to win. This giveaway closes in 1 week. Thank you guys so much, and on with the video. And with that, let's get into the color story of the Death Valley palette, because I put a lot of thought into this color story. It's kind of funny. I had the idea for the color story. I knew I wanted it to be red and yellow and neutrals, and I thought when I was starting to pick shades, I would just have a million shades and I'd have to really narrow it down to get it to fit into the 14 pan palette. But I actually found it was the opposite. I picked out 9 shades that I really felt were the core of the color story, and then I was able to go, what is it missing? What would complement those shades? What would help to make this a more well-rounded palette? And I also wanted to make sure that, so one of the ways I do my makeup is if I don't already have a look in mind, but I know what palette I want to use, I'll open it up and I'll pick a shade I want to use that day. I will find the shade that is calling me and I will build a look around it. But I do find sometimes a palette can be limiting if I pick a certain shade and I can only pair it with like one other specific thing. Like if I pick this shade, I'm going to do this look with these other shades, and it doesn't really have a lot of flexibility. So I wanted to make sure if you do your makeup in that way as well, you could pick any shade in this palette and go in multiple directions. So you can take any shade in this palette and go in at least 2 different directions or more. Obviously you can pair whatever you want with whatever you want, but I'm one of those people that I like palettes to lead me. I like them to guide me. That's why I like a curated color story. So I wanted to do that with this palette. And I also wanted to make sure it appealed to a lot of different makeup tastes. Obviously it's like my perfect palette. I love every single shade in this, and the calibration of shades together, like obviously I did it, I love it, but I wanted it to also appeal to people who have a very different makeup aesthetic than me. So I actually need to thank Angelica Nikwivis. She did not know that she helped me with this at all. I didn't talk to her about it at all, but she is someone who I really respect in the industry. I love her videos. I love her taste in makeup. It's just very different from mine, but she's also very clear about what she looks for in a palette and looks for in a color story. So I tried to keep that in mind when I was picking the shades, because I thought that if I could appeal to myself and I could appeal to her, and we have such different makeup aesthetics, then that would cover a wide range of tastes. So I hope I did it. I have no idea if she likes this color story or not, but those were kind of my guiding principles to picking these shades. So with that, let's go through them one by one. First, we have a matte white. This is Telescope Peak, which is the highest point in Death Valley. So this is a true matte white. It is very pigmented. I have it on my inner corners today. I really wanted this in this palette because I realized that I just didn't have any pure matte whites in my collection, and I wanted to fill that hole for myself. And next is the shade 134. This is your beautiful shimmer inner corner option, because I wanted to give you multiple options. You have a matte option and a shimmer option, and this is what I chose for the shimmer option. It is actually inspired by one of my favorite highlighters, so I do use this as a highlighter all the time. It's very neutrally, it's kind of like a creamy off-white, but there is just a little hint of pink in it, so it pairs really well with the reds. But if you use it with the yellows, it still is neutral enough, it won't pull that way. You can really just see the pink when you pair it with the reds. And then we have the shade Vegas Lights because I had to have a Panic at the Disco reference in this palette. I love Panic at the Disco, and Vegas is really, really close to Death Valley. I think it's like technically the only reason it's not a part of it is because Vegas is there, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But this is your true yellow shimmer. This is not a gold, this is a yellow, and this actually is one of the repeat shades. This palette is made up of new and existing shades in Ccolor's line, but this was the yellow shimmer that made me fall in love with yellow shimmers. Yellow is one of my favorite colorful colors in makeup. Like, I'm a neutral girl at heart, but I do love me some reds and yellows, and this shimmer, it's out of the Frost palette. This is what made me fall in love with yellow shimmers, and I was like, it's perfect, it's perfection, please don't change a thing, please just put that color in my palette. So it's here, it is my favorite yellow shimmer of all time, and I named it Vegas Lights. It just felt like the right vibe, the right shade in this palette to be named Vegas Lights, because how I name these shades is I picked the shades out, and then I picked the names out, and then I tried to pair them with what I thought made sense. And that just screamed like this is the correct shade to be Vegas Lights. And then we have the shade Sun Heat. This is your true matte yellow. This is a primary yellow. It is a little bit more sheer than the other mattes, just because something that I find so beautiful is a sheer yellow just blended out all over the lid as a one and done eyeshadow look. It's beautiful for spring and summer. Obviously you can wear it anytime. So this one is just a little bit more lightly pigmented than the other mattes in this palette, but you can easily build it up and get that full pigment if you want. It's just meant to be a little more flexible if you really love that kind of look like I do. It's one of those looks that I'm more likely to wear off camera than on camera because it's just such a great go-to everyday type of thing if I don't want neutrals, if I want to do something colorful but still wearable. And then is my favorite shade in this palette. I love them all, but this is the one that I knew had to be perfect, and this is the one that they sent me the most samples of, and I was like, nope, 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 not right, fix it this way, until we finally got Pinyon Juniper, which is a type of plant in Death Valley. This is a true grungy yellow. It's not an orange, it's a grungy yellow, and it is beautiful. It is, like I said, my favorite shade in this palette. It's what I have on my lower lash line today. I wanted primary yellows and a grungy version because I do love grungy tones in makeup, and grungy yellow is just not something I've really seen before. They always tend to pull orange, but this one does not. It's a true yellow. I love it. And I named it Pinyon Juniper. I don't think those are this color at all, the plant, but juniper is just one of my favorite words in the English language. I just think it's a really pretty word. It's a fun word. I like it. So I thought it made sense that my favorite shade would be named with one of my favorite words. So that's the logic in the naming of that one. Tomorrow there will be a video of 3 looks with this palette, and one of them is mostly just that shade all over the lid, and it is so beautiful. So come back tomorrow if you want some inspiration to see how I've used this palette. And then there is the shade Road Trip. This is your gold shimmer, but it's a cool toned gold because I wanted this palette to be these bright warm colors mixed with cool toned neutrals, because that's not really something I've seen before, and I truly just love cool tone neutrals. I think they're fantastic. So I thought this palette would be a little more interesting if I paired those two loves of mine together, and I think it came out really nice. So Road Trip is your neutral but cool toned gold shimmer because look, I love a gold shimmer. I am basic, so I needed one if this was going to be a palette that I could both reach for every day or do more creative things with, and that's what I wanted. So this is my beautiful gold shimmer, and it's called Road Trip because the day I fell in love with Death Valley was when I went on a road trip with my best friend and her family from Vegas to Reno, and I was just looking out the window in awe of this place. I thought it was so beautiful. It was just the best feeling ever. So I wanted to honor my best friend, her parents, and that day's road trip. And then we have the shade Pupfish. This is your warm tone transition shade because I have a cool tone transition shade down here. So I thought, you know, to give this palette a little more flexibility, even though I wanted mostly cool tone neutrals, I did want to give a warm toned transition just so you can pull your look in slightly different directions if you want. It's not super warm. It is a pretty neutral warm tone, but it still pulls warmer than, here, I'll swatch this shade. It still pulls warmer. So you can see the difference of these two shades just to give you a little bit more options. And it's called Pupfish. This is actually the one shade that I did not come up with the name for. One of my wonderful subscribers who, honestly, I'm so fortunate to call a friend. She lived in the area for a long time and she loved Death Valley, and I told her about this and I was like, you know what? I want you to name a shade. Tell me your favorite thing about Death Valley and I will name one of my shades that. And there is actually fish in Death Valley. There is a fish called the Devil's Hole Pupfish that you cannot find anywhere else. They only live in Death Valley, and that was her favorite thing about Death Valley. So this is Pupfish. The actual fish themselves are this really pretty blue color, but her as a person, she is just so dependable. She is that person I go to if I need to have like a real conversation, and she's, like I said, she's just so dependable that it just felt right to me to make one of the staple shades in this palette, one of the shades I reach for almost every day when I use it, to name that shade after her. So that is Pupfish. And then onto the second row, we have the shade Mirage, and this was actually the last shade I chose for this palette. This beautiful, like somewhere between a gunmetal and a silver. And the reason this was the last shade I chose, and it may seem a little out of left field for this color story, is because I had 13 shades chosen, and then I was like, I don't know what else it needs. I don't know what else would complement this color story. It was an orange shimmer, it was a burgundy shimmer. I knew I wanted it to be a shimmer, but I didn't know what color, and just everything wasn't quite working. It wasn't quite what I wanted. So instead, I thought to myself, okay, instead of thinking what will work with this color story, what is a shade I'm a sucker for? What is a shade that if a palette has, it instantly catches my eye, it makes me way more interested in a palette, and I was like, oh, a gunmetal. I love a gunmetal shimmer. And I had a little Photoshop thing going of this palette, and I tried a gunmetal shimmer in it, and I was like, yes, that's it. And I'm really glad I put it in there because it just gives something a little more surprising. It gives you something different in this palette, and I really like that. I know this isn't like a true gunmetal. It's kind of somewhere between a gunmetal and a silver, but they sent me the first sample and I was like, oh, that's so pretty. That's so pretty. That's what I want, even if it's not exactly what I had in my head. So that is Mirage. And this is actually the color that I chose to wear in my promo photo for this palette. So you know I love it. And then next we have the shade Alive, because we are alive here in Death Valley. So don't take love off the table yet. I'm not a singer, okay? But you know I love Fall Out Boy. You know I love Fall Out Boy, so I had to do it. And this red shimmer just seemed like the right shade. It is one of those shimmer shades of Ccolors that looks like it goes instantly hard pan, but you can still pick it up just fine. So I don't know what's up with that. It's something that some of their shimmers do sometimes, and this is one of them. So if you pick it up and you're like, oh no, it's instantly hard panned, it's not. It just kind of looks like it. But it is also a little bit different of a formula than the rest of the shimmers in this palette, because the other four shimmers are just a little more shimmery. They're a little more amped up. You're not gonna get like crazy shimmers in this palette because I love a soft everyday shimmer, but this one is just a little less intense, a little more on the satin side, because I feel like a lot of people find red to be a scary color, and putting an intense red shimmer all over your lid, I think that can be scary for some people. And I also know that when I am working with a color I don't feel as confident with, I like to kind of turn down the shine intensity. Like the more intense the color, the less intense the shine, and it just makes me feel more comfortable with the look. It makes it feel more wearable to me. So that is why this red is a little more buildable, a little less intense, a little less shimmery than the other shimmers in this palette, but it's still super beautiful. I do find that I like to use this over a glitter glue, and it's super, super pretty. So that is the shade Alive. And then next we have our primary red, the shade Desert Holly. This is another plant in Death Valley. I don't think it's red, but red, holly, Christmas. It just felt right to name this Desert Holly, so that's why I did. And this is your primary red matte. It is not a little more sheer like the primary yellow matte. It is a true pigmented primary red. It doesn't pull pink. It is a red, and it is so beautiful. I love red eyeshadow. Yellow and red are like my two favorite colorful shades, which is why I put them in this palette. And I know some people are afraid of reds and they're like, but it makes me look dead. And I'm just like, yeah, isn't that the point? Like, don't we all want to look like vampire queens sometimes? Apparently not. But that is one of the shades that is not considered safe for the eye area in the US. So just a little warning there. And the other one that is not is the next shade over, The Spice, named after my favorite book, Dune. I absolutely adore that book and I adore this shade. This is a grungy red, not too orange, a true grungy brick red. I haven't really seen this type of color very often in makeup, so I was very, very happy when they sent me the sample and I was like, yes, that's it. That is The Spice. So happy to have this color. I love it so much. And then I have the Cool Tone Transition shade. This is the shade Breathe In, because one of the things that I really noticed when I was in Death Valley was just the way the air felt. Like, I just wanted to breathe it in and experience the moment, and that's why I wanted to name a shade Breathe In, and this just felt like the right shade. This is your cool toned transition shade that is kind of the sister to Pupfish up here. So if I don't reach for Pupfish, I usually reach for Breathe In and vice versa. And then we have the shade Le Désert. This is just the desert, but in French, because I am learning French and I think it's a beautiful language, so I wanted to include it. So it is Le Désert. And this is one of those sequin shadows. It does have a little bit of gold flecks in it because, you know, I love those sequin shadows, but I know not everyone does, so I only included one. But I wanted to have a dark brown and a black in this palette just to give you options with your deepening shade, because different looks call for different deepening shades. So this is your dark brown, chocolatey, but still fairly cool toned deepening shade. And it does have just a little bit of those gold micro glitters in it. But if you dip your brush in and then tap it off, you're really not going to get them. But if you want them, then what I do is I put it on with the brush and then I take my finger and tap a little bit over. And you do get that gold fleck effect if you do that. So you do kind of have options there if you like it, if you don't. And then finally we have Badwater Basin. This is the lowest point in Death Valley. So we have the highest, that's the white, and the lowest, that's the black. I thought it was clever. I liked it. And this is a black. But as someone who's honestly a little afraid of black eyeshadow, I don't use it too much. This is a more softer pigmented black. It's a little more of a gray black. It blends really well. If you want that intense black pigment, you can obviously build it up, but this is meant to be a little softer, a little more for the people like me who may not feel super confident working with black eyeshadow. But I did want to give it to you because, like I said, I wanted multiple options for deepening shades, and I know a lot of people do really like a black eyeshadow. Again, this was one of those things from Angie. I know she loves a black eyeshadow in a palette, and I was like, you know what? I do like the option. I do like using them as liner sometimes, and I am glad I put this in the palette because I have used it actually in a lot more looks than I thought. So that is the final shade, Badwater Basin, and you have your two deepening shades here, so you have your options. Or you could deepen it with the brown and line with the black, you know, whatever you want to do. And there we go. That is the Death Valley palette by Ccolor and SarahJo by me. Do you know how many times the past year, because this has taken a year, literally, I'd say right before New Year's last year is when I found out that this was happening and began working on it. Do you know how many times I have walked around my house just practicing this video, like that whole spiel, even when it didn't feel real yet that I was going to be doing this? So it feels insane to actually be doing it. And yeah, just wow. I'm here. I really hope you like my palette, and even if you don't buy it, which is totally fine if it's not right for your collection, not what you would go for, I still hope you enjoyed this video. I still hope maybe my curation of colors will help inspire you with some looks that you already have in your collection. Whatever you want to do, I just thank you so much for sticking with me till this point in the video. Thank you so much to everyone who has been a part of this, including that random Sephora employee who told me, oh, you don't want to get Naked Honey because no one wears yellow eyeshadow. And I was like, I'm doing a palette and I will have yellow eyeshadow. Shout out to you, random person. I've still thought of that. And I was like, whoops, I spilled the beans on myself because I cannot keep a secret. But anyway, thank you all so much. And I will see you tomorrow for a 3 looks, 1 palette with this, giving you some ideas, some inspiration, and I am just so excited for Friday. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. We did it, Cookie! Here is my dog. She has been being so quiet and patient next to me. I want her to be included in this moment too, so here she is. Thank you for the emotional support this whole time. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry. This is insane. Oh, I bet I have... You can tell I was nervous. Oh my god, the pit stain. Oh, rip. Gross. But like, I'm a perfectionist. Of course I was nervous. Do you know how many times I restarted this video? Okay.